Hi, I'm LaTanya, and I'm the Associate Director for STEM in the Office of Fellowships. And today I'm going to be going over the application process for the NSF GRFP. And I'm also going to talk about the NDSEG and for Predoctoral that you can also think about applying to if you're interested. So what's the purpose of the NSF? They really want to increase the diversity and maintain the diversity of the science and engineering workforce in the United States. This particular program, they identify individuals who are pursuing research-based degrees who they feel have potential for a career in STEM. So as I mentioned, they want to identify people with potential, but early in their careers. And I'll define what that means in the next few slides. And NSF also actively encourages applications from women, members of underrepresented minority groups, persons with disabilities, veterans, and undergraduate seniors. This does not mean that those individuals have some sort of leg up or a preference when they apply, but NSF would just like to see more applications from these individuals. So this award is based on your demonstrated potential in STEM, which you have to articulate in writing throughout the application. This is a 5-year award. You can use it in 5 years, but you're provided support for 3 years. It's a 5-year award because some students may take time off of their graduate studies to pursue other academic endeavors. So you get 3 years of support, $34,000, you get an educational allowance, and there's also some funds for career life balance if you need to take some time off for family leave. So what are your chances of success? I would say that it hovers between 15 and 16%. There are a lot of applicants for this award. Sometimes there can be 16,000. So the competition is pretty steep, but it is doable. For 2021 to 2022, 2,500 awards are expected to be given by NSF. So this is your timeline here. So late in October, the 3rd week in October, the applications are due, letters of reference follow. If you're a senior, you will be applying to grad school in the same year that you submit this application. You will find out if you're successful in March or April, and your fellowship tenure will begin on September 1st. So now on to eligibility. So you must be a US citizen, national, or permanent resident, senior undergraduates, and early career graduates. So graduate students either at the beginning of the 1st year or at the beginning of the 2nd year are eligible. Your degree must be research-based, master's or PhD in the concentrations that are listed in the program solicitation on the last few pages. And you must be enrolled in a US accredited institution by the summer, fall of the year in which you accept the award. Applicants that are not eligible are those who are not citizens or permanent residents. If you are awarded a GRFP and you accepted it, or if you did not accept and you did not notify NSF, and those who have had some sort of interruption in their graduate study outside of the rules that NSF outlines, which will be in the next few slides. And obviously NSF employees are not eligible. So all of the applicants are placed in different academic levels, 1 through 4. So academic level 1 are college seniors or baccalaureate recipients with no graduate study. Academic levels 2, 3, and 4 consists of students who have had some graduate study. Level 2s are 1st year graduate students, so at the beginning of their 1st year, and individuals who have enrolled in a joint bachelor's and master's program. Level 3s are 2nd year grad students or individuals at the beginning of the 2nd year of their graduate study, or current 1st year doctoral students who came directly into their doctoral program from joint bachelor's and master's degrees. Level 4s would be individuals who have had more than 12 months of graduate study and who have had an interruption in that study greater than 2 years, and are not currently enrolled in a graduate program. So these academic levels impact how often you can apply. So if you're level 1, a senior, or someone with a baccalaureate degree with no graduate study, there are no restrictions. You can apply every year until you begin graduate school. All of the other levels are restricted to 1 application. So what that means, if you're first or second year graduate student, or you're one of the students returning and you're not currently in the graduate program, you have to decide what year you want to apply, either beginning of first year or beginning of second year. So the joint BSMS students are in a different category now. This has been going on maybe for 2 years or so. So they are limited to 1 application. In the past, they were allowed to potentially apply twice as someone with a baccalaureate degree, but now they must apply either during the last year of their joint degree program, or if they did not apply during that last year, they're only eligible during the first year of their PhD program if they went directly into that program. These are the eligible fields of study, and all of these fields can be found within the last few pages of the program solicitation. So these are the types of research that would not be eligible for NSF. So anything with a directly health-related goals. So if you're trying to diagnose a disease or use a drug or something to treat a disease, that wouldn't be suitable for the NSF GRFP. Anything clinical that has to do with patients that, that really involves a lot of patient-oriented research, that would not be eligible for this award as well. These are your ineligible degree programs. Any professional degrees, joint degree programs would not be eligible. Anything on the clinical side, like public health, counseling, social work, education, and history, you would be eligible as long as it has something to do with STEM or science. To find more details about this, you want to consult the current solicitation 21-602. So last year, NSF they identified high priority research areas, three of them: artificial intelligence, quantum information science, and computationally intensive research. So what they did was they encouraged individuals who were pursuing research in these fields, or if their research leaned heavily upon these fields, they encouraged applications from those individuals. But applications from all of the fields of study in the solicitation are welcome to apply. If for some reason your research involves these 3 research areas, you will want to highlight that in your application in the following way. So this is what you would put in research.gov, because that is the mechanism through which you actually apply to NSF. So you would say that your research is interdisciplinary, and then you would choose the subfield that aligns most closely with your research. Now, if your research does not include any of these fields, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't apply. All applicants are welcome to apply. So you want to select the field of study that aligns most closely with your current research if you're a graduate student, or your future research if you are a senior. And this is because reviewers are assigned to applications based on their area of expertise. So if you select other, there's a chance that you could get a reviewer that may not have the relevant background to give you a really good and rigorous review of your application. So I know that there's a lot of interdisciplinary work, but you really want to try to pick one of the subfields of study. Applicants must enroll in a degree program consistent with the broad field of study in which the application was funded. You may not apply to the GRFP in one field and change your field of study upon receiving the award. So if at the time of application, you have selected chemistry, if you're awarded a GRFP, you cannot say, okay, now I'm going to change to biology. Your research topic may change, but it has to stay within that broad field of study. So you want to make sure you read the current solicitation before you get started. 21-602. This provides all of the information that you need to understand the GRFP and how to begin the application process. So eligibility can be a tricky thing sometimes. If you have questions, you want to inquire and find out if you're eligible well before the deadline, because you don't want to apply for this award if you're not eligible. So there are many ways to do this. You can visit the website, nsf.gov/GRFP, or you can go to the more student-friendly website, nsfgrfp.org. You can actually call NSF, and I've called this this hotline, and they are able to answer some questions about eligibility. You can email NSF GRFP, read the solicitation, or you're welcome to send me an email if you like. So let's get into the application. All of the deadlines are by 5 p.m. determined by your mailing address, so whatever address you put on the application. And the deadlines span from October 18th through October 22nd. And the letters of reference are due on October 29th, and they're all due at 4 p.m. Eastern time. So a complete application is going to consist of all your personal information, work experience. You will put all of that in research.gov. You have to have a 3-page personal statement. You have to have a 2-page research statement. You want to upload your transcripts from all of the undergraduate and graduate institutions that you have attended. And you want to include 3 letters of reference. NSF will review applications with 2 letters, but 3 letters really makes for a well-rounded application. So both of the research and the personal statements will be evaluated based on intellectual merit and broader impacts. And these labels should be included in both essays, or there's a chance that it will be returned without review. Intellectual merit will be found in different areas of the application. So they will look at grades to see, have you passed the courses in the field of study in which you're currently pursuing as a graduate student. They will look at the curriculum to see the types of classes that you've taken, if you've won awards, if you've done presentations. All of those things will count when evaluating intellectual merit. They will also look to your research statement to see, are you able to plan and articulate a reasonable research plan. They also want to see how you've worked with others in a team. That will be evident in the previous research that you've done in undergrad. They want to see that you're able to interpret research that you've done and able to predict results in the research that you propose. And they also want to see that you have an understanding of how your research fits broadly within your field of study, like what will be intellectually gained by your field of study if your research project is successful. So what are broader impacts? So they look at the impact that you will have on society through extracurricular activities outside of the classroom. They also look at your research to see, can you identify and articulate the impact that your research can have on society? Now, society doesn't have to be everyone in the world. It can be scientists within your field of study. And I have here some ways that you can demonstrate your broader impact. So your personal impact that you've had on society outside of the classroom. So this would include teaching or TAing, involvement in science clubs or other types of clubs, any type of outreach that you've done, mentoring. And if you've worked with any groups that are underrepresented in STEM, you'll want to highlight that as well. So there are many ways to demonstrate broader impacts. And if you have questions about that, you can definitely email me. We can set up a meeting and talk about it. So this is the usual organization that I see of the personal statements. They usually begin with a brief introduction, followed by the intellectual merit section, the broader impact section, and then maybe a paragraph that talks about your future career goals. Now, in the introduction, you don't have to have a label that says introduction, but this is usually where students tell their story and talk about how they became involved in STEM or either in their field of study. In the intellectual merit section, in the personal statement, where you do have to have this section labeled, this is where you will chronologically outline all of the previous research experiences that you've had in undergrad up until the current time, so your graduate program. And you really want to make sure that you're detailed here and you provide the reviewers with all of the information needed to make a good assessment of the intellectual merit of these activities, because you have to keep in mind the reviewers are from all over the country, so they may not be familiar with your program or your research group. So I have a slide here that describes some of the details that you would want to put there. You want to obviously include the institution name, the location, the name of your mentor, and your role. You want to outline the purpose of your project. You want to discuss how you conducted this project. So some technical information. When did you conduct this project and duration is important. That will help the reviewers to kind of follow this chronological timeline. I have in bold here what was your specific project and contribution. That's very important. And to conclude, usually you talk about the experimental outcomes, you talk about what you learned, and you also talk about how this experience will shape how will it help to shape your future career goals, or how did it inform the next research project that you pursued. So now we're still in the personal statement, but we're in the broader impact section. So these are the activities that you've done outside of the lab that have a demonstrated societal impact. So for this, you don't have to write this chronologically. You can write it by type of experience. So if you want to put all your TA experience together, if you want to put all of your club experience together, that's fine to do here. But you still want to make sure that you include all of those details, like the name of the organization, and for broader impacts especially, you really have to tell the reviewers what is the purpose of the organization, the goals of the organization, and the individuals that they serve. You want to talk about when you participated in this activity and the duration, and what led you to want to pursue this activity. What was your title and role? What were your specific duties and contributions? And what were the outcomes of that? And most notably, how did this experience help to shape your future goals? Or how did it help to inform maybe the next experience that you decided to pursue outside of the lab? Future career goals, usually this is, maybe 3 or 4 sentences after the broader impact section. You don't have to have a label here. If you're an undergraduate senior, sometimes those students have identified where they want to go to grad school. They may talk about 1 or 2 schools that they're interested in or PIs that they're interested in, but everyone should really talk about what their future career choice is and what types of things do they see themselves doing in this career. So what types of research questions would you like to answer as a scientist? And if you're interested in incorporating any of your previous broader impact activities into your career, you want to highlight that as well. So in the research statement, you have 2 pages and you have to pack a lot into those 2 pages. So you want to present a detailed research plan. You want to begin with the introduction/background of your research project, where you provide the justification for pursuing your project based on previously published data or preliminary data from your lab. And all of this should build into a clear hypothesis, and you should have 1 or 2 aims or experimental objectives that describe how you're going to investigate that hypothesis. So within those aims or objectives, you want to have your methods and your research plans. So here you really have to be technical when you talk about what you're going to do, but you also want to make sure that you're writing it broadly to your field. If there are any unique resources that you need to accomplish your project, so any national facilities, or if you have to travel to collect samples from some other state or country, you definitely want to talk about that and tell them how you're going to accomplish that part of your project. For each aim, after you kind of address the methods, you want to tell them what success will look like in terms of anticipated results, and if there are any potential pitfalls and alternative experiments you can propose, I would say that would be important to include as well. And this research statement will end with a brief intellectual merit and broader impact section. Each section will be maybe 2 to 3 sentences each and followed by some references. You really want to avoid jargon and communicate clearly for non-specialists, so people broadly within your field, and you want to make your contributions clear. So you want to use those I will do this, I will do that, so that the reviewers will be able to determine your role in the project, and it should be a primary role. So before you begin all this, you really want to think about what is unique about you or your story. If there's anything about your life story that will help the reviewers to understand your motivation for wanting to pursue a career in science, you want to talk about that as well. As I mentioned earlier, how you became interested in the field. So just think about those things as you begin. So in terms of letters of reference, you need 3. You can list up to 5, but be aware that only the top 3 will be used. And the deadline for the letters of reference are going to be shortly after the application. Like I have here, if only 2 letters arrive, your application will still be reviewed. This is why some students will list 4 letter writers if they feel like 1 letter writer may not make the deadline. They want to make sure that they have that 3rd letter. Select your letter writers carefully. It's always better if they're familiar with you. They can talk about your abilities in the lab, but they can also talk about you as a person. That's always nice. And if you can share your statements or any information with them, that could be helpful in helping them to put their letters together. So merit review criteria, this award is, your application is only going to be reviewed in light of intellectual merit and broader impacts. When you receive your feedback, you will see these 2 categories and a description of how well you address those categories in your application. This is just a reinforcement that you should have these labels in both essays to make sure that your application is not returned without review. And evidence of intellectual merit and broader impacts will be found throughout your application materials. So you just want to make note of that this is kind of a holistic review of your application. In light of that, GPA, number of publications and number of presentations, does not necessarily have a correlation status to being awarded a GRFP. If you have these things, you definitely want to include them in your application materials, but there is no guarantee that says, okay, only the students with publications can get this award, because they're looking for potential. So you really want to know who your reviewers are. You are writing to them. They will be a panel of disciplinary and interdisciplinary scientists working in the field in a variety of ways. They will be assigned to the panels based on their primary field of study. And the applicants, you are definitely advised, as I mentioned before, to select the field of study that is most closely aligned to your graduate program and the work that you're proposing. So when evaluating, the reviewers are going to make sure that you have let them know what you want to do, why you want to do it, how will you know if you're successful. So this is very important. When you get to the end and you have everything written, you want to step back and make sure that you've hit all of those points. So these are the resources for NSF. You can go to nsf.gov /GRP, nsfgrp.gov, research.gov. This is where you actually apply. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to NSF. So now I'll briefly go over 2 more awards that we see students apply to. The first one is the NDSEG. This is a 3-year award, pays for full tuition and all mandatory fees. The stipend is a little more than NSF, and you receive a travel budget and a little bit towards your health insurance. So eligibility for NDSEG, oh yeah, and I didn't mention that one. This one is sponsored through the DoD, Department of Defense. So make note of that. You must be a US citizen, a dual citizen, or a national as defined on their website. You must have completed your undergraduate studies in the year of your fellowship application if you're applying as an undergrad. If you're applying as a graduate student, you must be within the first 2 years of graduate study, and you can go to their website. They provided a more detailed explanation of that. And most importantly, this shouldn't say number 5, but the research you're pursuing should align with one of the DoD's broad agency announcements. And these BAAs describes the types of research that are currently being conducted at DoD. So they want to make sure that there's a good match between what they're doing and what you're doing. This is just reinforcing, if you're interested in this award, you should first look to the BAAs to see if you can identify a BAA that aligns with the research that you're planning. If you find one, then you can go forward with this application. If you don't, then you should just consider the NSF or another type of fellowship. NDSEG has been undergoing some changes. So I'm gonna say that this is the most current information that I have found. The application deadline, November 19th, 2021. They still have the 500-word personal essay. Oh, the resume, I'm not sure about this. You want to check the website. Definitely the 3-page research essay, 1-page works cited, letters of reference and transcripts. They say they're no longer requiring GRE scores. You want to check the website for details. So this is new. Well, 2 new things. Number 1, they have a new group administering this award. So this is why I'm constantly saying, check the website, new from last year. So this number 2, they're saying, do not reference your name, school, advisor name, or anything that denotes who you are and what school you attend in the personal and research essay. So this is new for this year. So you really want to make sure that you read the website and get more details about that. And this is the new website, ndseg.org. This is the new administration information, and this is their contact information and phone number. So if you're interested in this, I highly recommend you read through that website to get the up-to-date information. And the last one briefly here is the Ford Predoctoral Award. Ford offers 3 different types of awards. They offer a predoctoral, a dissertation, and a postdoctoral award. So you want to look for information for the predoctoral award, and you will receive $27,000 over the course of 3 years. And one good thing about the Ford that really makes it stand out from other awards is that there is this very rich conference of Ford Fellows, which provides students the opportunities to connect with other fellows in meetings. It provides a lot of opportunities for collaborations through papers, through posters, just through conversations. And they also talk a lot about career advancement. So if you're really looking for a fellowship that provides a lot of support, this would be a good fellowship option for you. And this is the eligibility. I won't go through all of this. You definitely want to read the website for details, but briefly, you should be a US citizen, national permanent resident, DACA. There are more details about this on the website. Basically, you should have a strong interest in academia either in teaching or in a research capacity. They want individuals who have a minimum of 3 years needed to complete their PhD programs. So this is open to senior undergraduates, individuals who have completed some graduate study. These are the STEM fields of study, but if you have friends who are in the humanities or something like that, this award is also open to them, so you can spread that word around as well. They identify positive factors for selection, so they really want individuals who are interested in working to increase the diversity in STEM of students and groups who have been underrepresented. This doesn't mean that you have to be a member of one of those groups, but if you're working or if you have worked in the past to help individuals who are underrepresented in the academy, and if you've incorporated diversity in your teaching, this would be a good award for you. December 16th is the deadline, and they've also identified some keys to success here. So they really want people who show great promise as a teacher or researcher, and individuals who have a strong interest in engaging in groups that have been traditionally underrepresented in STEM.